with Love, Death, and Robots, the first season, is there anything that really stood out to you? Anything from a character artist standpoint that I should take note of or pay more attention to?
What was the name of the first episode of season 1?
The one where it was like robotic MMA.
Yeah, Sony's Edge. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's it.
the guy who made like the two kind of creatures at the end that kind of fight in a pit, his name is Ben Erdt.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
That guy is just an absolute beast when it comes to character art. He's so passionate about it. When you talk to him, you realize that this is all he does and all that he loves, and like he's super dedicated to like the craft, and he's super good too, like he made this mech.
Oh wow, yeah, this artist is phenomenal.
He's one of the rare ones, I feel like, that's like equally good doing like really crazy hard surface and also really crazy creatures. Because like these two things are often very different, and you have a lot of people who are like either one or the other one, like they'll specialize, they'll make only creatures or only hard surface. I mean, some people do and like do both, but like most people, I feel like really like choose like one thing and can really only be good at one thing, even if they do a little bit of the second one. There's like always one that's better than like the other one, but in his case, like he's like so like equally good at these two things, anything that you can sort of take from like just looking at his work, like going on his Artstation, just sort of analyzing how he seems to sculpt the kind of shapes that he uses, like he's really good with like shapes, and he's good at like coming up with like interesting blend of like creatures or like really interesting shapes on his characters there. And a lot of them, like they have these very prominent primary shapes in there. So there's like, it's not stylized, but it's always like very well designed, And so he's like really good with that. So like if you can sort of look at what he does, sort of study his style, there's a lot to take away, just by going on his page there.
Oh, okay.
At the same time, there's a bit of a warning too that like has to be said, like it's really a lot of work to be good at two things like that. Like, and for people to want to pay you for the work that you do, Because like ultimately, like getting a job is just about developing a skill that other people want to pay you for, really, Like that's just what like finding a job in our industry is, You just have to become good at something to the point that other people want to pay you. And they would rather pay you than pay someone else. Which means that you have to be better at what it is that you do, than like most people are, But like you just choose something and you become just really good at that one thing. But like you could look at like a portfolio like Ben's portfolio, and like he's got like really crazy creatures and really crazy robots. So you could be like, oh, this is easy, And then he's got like humanoid characters in there as well, And he's even got concept art too. Like, so you could sort of look at that and be like, oh, it's like easy to be good at like all of these things. And then you just sort of start drowning yourself into trying to be good at like too many things at once, So there is like a bit of warning that has to be given. It's like this guy has been doing this for years. He's really good. He's really passionate about it. He's been doing this like every day and like sacrificing so much to like be able to get to this point that like it's really better, like it's a lot more attainable as like a career goal if you just decide one thing to be great at and sort of focus on that.
And do you think possibly he started out with a really strong foundation in the traditional arts, and maybe that those skills are what's helping him in 3D? Because one of the things that I've been noticing, especially as I'm interviewing and speaking to more entry level artists, is there's a real strong focus, and maybe you might have talked about this, but there's a real strong focus on the technical aspect, the software, the workflow and the pipeline. But what I think Ben is doing so successfully is he's making all the right choices early on, with his design, with his color choices, just with the attitude and personality and that he wants to convey with his characters, that it I mean it just becomes pretty flawless in execution. So yeah, there's a question in there. I don't know if you can extract the signal from the noise.
Ooh, pyrotechnics. He's a pyrotechnician. Like, he's actually a certified pyrotechnician.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So
His stock is just going through the roof.
Yeah, so yeah, interesting. And so freelance character modeler started 2009. Oh, guess where he's working?
I believe he's at Blizzard now. He did a couple Gnomon tutorials as well.
Yeah. So Diablo 4 character art team, and then it doesn't say. Okay, so that's when he was creating his things here. So he did some outsourcing for Blur from June 2017 to January 2018. Yeah, so that guy is just crazy good. But so yeah, so your question was kind of education. Well, clearly here there's no education we can list. Or wait, okay. Vancouver Film School, and then Media Design High School, University of Applied Sciences, Bachelor of Science in Game Design. So this guy is smart. He's not just talented. Yeah, he's one of those, like, it doesn't really matter at that point whether someone has a traditional like art background or not. I suspect that everything we've seen here certainly points to the fact that that is the case. But like, you can see that he's also someone who knows how to like become better by himself. Like, he clearly learned what he needs, like how he needs to teach himself to become great at something, because like clearly no one taught him the skills to the degree that which he displays them, right? It's like, if there's a school that makes people that are this good, you should go there.
Oh no, there's no recipe or formula, right? To being awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he clearly knows how to teach himself to become good at something. I don't know how he does that. That would be a great question to sort of ask him. But I mean, clearly he's someone who's hardworking, because he has a lot of stuff and his portfolio is really full, and there's like a lot of stuff that he clearly has done on the side of all these other, like,
Yeah.
I assume, very complex, very demanding productions. So clearly he works really, really hard, and he's passionate about a lot of different facets of character art, whether it's creatures, art surface, concept art. Like, he understands design as well. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just like he knows about the tools and how to use the tools, or how to use ZBrush to like sculpt like a sphere or something. It's like this guy also clearly understands what makes something appealing or not. Like, and like he clearly knows the basics of character design.
Yeah.
So he knows all of that stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's like ZBrush and Maya and Painter. Those are all just like pens and pencils essentially, right? Those are just tools in his box, but actually what's driving this is the knowledge and that hard work, and those 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours. I don't know if you subscribe to that way of thinking, but
I do.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of people, they wouldn't like do his process. They would just go straight to like working in ZBrush. But this guy, like, he does 2D concept art first, and you can see that he spends a lot of time on his concept art. Really figures out all the details there. Maybe not all of the details, but a lot of the details. He sort of figures them out ahead of time. So like, he's very careful. He's very planned. Like he's very methodical. Like, he's not in a rush to get something out as soon as possible. He probably spends a lot of time thinking about his characters. He probably spends a lot of time just sort of thinking about how to make like a stronger shape somewhere. Like, most people who are interested by design and do 3D, they don't necessarily seem to do all that much drawing ahead of time. They just go straight into ZBrush and they just start like exploring shapes in there and like doing like often like really really good work there. But it's kind of refreshing to see someone whose approach is very careful and very planned, and to see like the kind of result that it gives, you know. And like it's really smart because, you know, why spend time like it's longer to concept sculpt something, or at least I suppose if you're very good, it's probably it takes longer to explore if you're 3D concepting exclusively like different shapes and different details, and kind of make a choice there as to what you prefer between the details that you have or the shapes that you have, you know, and to kind of make a design choice there. Like it would take more time to get there and do those iterations there than if you're working in 2D directly. So it kind of shows, you know, like in the degree of detail, but also in the clarity of the shapes that he winds up with, and like how everything looks like it's really been kind of planned to really fit together there. You can see all that preparation that really translates to the 3D model, and you don't often see that, you know.
Absolutely. I think you really touched on something too that has just come on my radar is the art of learning, right? Learning how to learn, right? And I think the term is meta learning, which is actually pretty cool. I was reading a book by Jim Quick, or not. I was reading on Audible. I was listening to a book by Jim Quick on learning and how to develop that strength and that skill, and that's essentially what separates the innovators from, you know, the team members that just execute and kind of just get things done, is the ability to adapt and to learn, and learning how to learn is definitely probably what Ben does really well. So yeah, I think you touched on a really good point with that.
It's actually funny to see someone who works like this because, I mean, although I've never really been someone to do a lot of 2D concepting, like I really started at the beginning to really be this kind of very careful person, like in my process and like sort of planning things and kind of doing a lot of changes and trying different things out, you know. And I used to like very carefully model things, like in 3ds Max, really spend a lot of time to really just carefully make interesting shapes, or just like have a very clean topology, you know, because you can really tell when you look at sort of his work that like everything is super clean, like in terms of like modeling, you know, like you don't see like a lot of pinches, you don't see a lot of like bad geometry, like you have places that are very smooth that all blend together, you know, like in a way that's like really really nice. So like you can see that he's very careful in his approach, and he really spends a lot of time to make sure that the details are or as possibly nice and clean as they can be, you know. And it's actually kind of interesting because like I like the conversation that we're having right now, because I started like that too. When I started doing 3D, I was also very methodical and very meticulous with like how I would actually model stuff. You know, like I've never done any characters to the degree that he has, but um, like I used to model things really really differently back then, and to like for me modeling and character art and these things was, I don't know, like I sort of approached it in a very different way. Like nowadays, like more on the people I've described before, you know, more on the sloppy side of things, and sort of just try to do it and try to do it quick, you know. And I think that that's really like production that really kind of made me like that. You just if you can make two characters in the space of one, then you've essentially doubled the variety that you're going to have in the end product there. But yeah, like production kind of made me very like optimal in like how I work. And when I started, like I was really methodical and I was really meticulous, and I would spend months and months and months on like the same projects and really sort of crafted details. So
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely empathize with that thought process, because I believe I don't know if this was what was happening to you or other artists, but I definitely felt like the need to prove to myself, not so much others, but there was a need to prove to myself that I could do, you know, the cleanliness of this approach, because then that would validate, you know, all the time and effort that I was putting into this.
hmm.
And I really focused on light response, right? Like how is the light interacting with the surface and the surface properties? And I almost got a little lost in that, and that turned into months and months of iteration and just trying to dial it in and get perfect and just being so meticulous. Even got the nickname Meticulous Mondo at work. But yeah, as I move into this new role at my job and I'm having to make decisions that people are waiting on, it definitely trims the fat on my choices, and I'm trying to optimize and streamline the decisions I'm making as well. But yeah, as I'm just drooling over Ben's characters, it reminds me of I didn't go to Art Center, but one of my instructors at the Art Institute did, and she would teach us, or she was teaching character design, and she was really digging into just blocking out the overall shape and silhouette, the forms, like that initial read, and then how the secondary read comes from the color palette, the bigger shapes within the silhouette, and then the tertiary detail is like where it's that last, I don't know, 20% of the character. So I feel that's what Ben is doing really successfully as well. It's like he's really thinking about his designs and his characters in passes. That initial read, that secondary read, and then that tertiary read. And yeah, it's really good.